Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 102. Today I decided to model this scenario where, say I woke up and I was me and I was 33, but my job wasn't as good and I had not saved anything for retirement. What would I do? How would I view that situation? And what's going on? Obviously, I have to pick some assumptions here, specifically about how much salary I'm going to make. And I chose $80,000. And the reason why I chose $80,000 is because if I had picked a lower number like 60, then I would have to say, okay, I make 60, which means that before that I probably also made 60. So between the ages of 22 and 33, I made $60,000 or less, and yet I chose to stay in the Bay Area. Not a good decision. If you can't move beyond 60 within 10 years, you likely need to leave the Bay Area because the cost of living is simply too high. So instead I picked $80,000. And then let's look at our options now. So again, we're 33. We got nothing saved. All this was kind of wasted or, spent doing other things. And we have to decide how we're going to prepare for retirement, how much money we're going to save, and why, and what are the different possible futures. This is what I want to help you out with. I want to help talk to you about what your possible futures are. Well, if we save absolutely nothing, 0%, then obviously you can never retire. So you're going to be working all of this time, maybe. And the reason I say maybe is because I have highlighted the last 10 years of the career, that's years 31 through 40 in red, because statistically speaking, if someone's able to have a 40-year career, they're lucky. To be able to work solid for 40 years straight, not have any health problems, not have any long periods of unemployment come up, that's a lucky thing. So when we do career planning and we're looking at how long somebody is going to work, the last 10 years of that 40-year period, we want to start to be cautious about counting on that because not everybody gets it. So yeah, if you save absolutely nothing, then obviously you can never retire. If you save 10%, you will have a nest egg at the end, but it'll be about a third of what you need. And if you wanted the full nest egg, you would need to work for 51 years in total. And for the, and that's 51 years, like 51 years starting at age 33. So you would still be working at age 84. I don't think you're going to make it. If you save 20%, then you need to save up for 36 years. So then you're going to be, I guess, it would be 69. And to still be working at 69, I think is pretty lucky, because we're going to start seeing some age discrimination, especially starting in the 60s. And if we're not already with a company, it's going to be difficult to find a new and different job in your 60s. Just a sad fact. All right, if we target a savings rate of 30%, then we will be able to retire by the end of this window. We'll have an extra 2 years here. We got 27 more working years if we choose to save 30%. This is percentage savings of take-home pay, by the way, just to make that clear. And then, 40%, we get a little bit more time at the end here. We become financially independent by age 54. And then 50%, it's even earlier. We get financial independence by age 49. And we only have 16 more years until we reach financial independence if we save 50% of our take-home pay. Obviously, if you save more of your take-home pay, you can make it happen even faster. So, if you can get to 75%, you got 7 more working years, and if you get to 85%, 4 more working years. The problem with these two, and the reason why I don't want to focus on them, the 75% and the 85%, is because at a salary of $80,000 a year, it is difficult to live in the Bay Area or live in California and spend only 15% of that take-home pay and be able to pay for food, pay for housing, all of those normal things. It's just difficult to arrange. I think it's possible, but you have to start getting really creative. You have to start working somewhere that'll pay for all your food. You have to maybe live with your family the entire time. And I'm not sure that you're going to want to live with your family for all these years afterwards. So you want kind of a long-term independence game plan, and on a salary of $80,000 that we're modeling, it just starts to be incredibly tight budget-wise, and your options become very constricted. The savings rate I do want to focus on, though, is 50%. And the reason why I want to focus on this 50% savings rate is because at $80,000 a year, I believe it is achievable. Certainly, if you have children, it's going to become, much more difficult. And let's see, what else would hurt you? If you still have a lot of debt, obviously, it's going to be difficult to save 50%. But that doesn't mean you can't pay 50% down on the debt. So, and that's a lot of money that you're moving every year if you're paying 50% of an $80,000 take-home pay on debt, so you should be getting out of debt pretty quickly. But I'd like to focus on the 50% for a bunch of different reasons. Number one, because it's doable. Number two, because it gives you a very substantial number of years after you reach financial independence to choose to do something different with your career. I think this is 13 years. So it gives you 13 years at the end of your career where you have a lot of flexibility to do what you want. Another thing is that you reach financial independence at age 49, and that means that some of your highest earning years, typically in your career, which are your 50s, you're going to have that much more financial flexibility to find a very high-paying job or a job that you just absolutely love at the point where your skills are at their peak and your overall performance is at its peak. And the ability to, the financial independence and the ability to hold out for the job you actually want, that's a big deal. And you're going to have that at a very powerful point in your career. Another reason why I wanted to focus on 50% is because it gets you out of the money game, because you're financially independent, before you reach the age discrimination range. And obviously this is very questionable exactly what age, exactly what amount of discrimination happens. But I think it's safe to say that when you're still in your 40s, you're going to be avoiding the worst of it. So I have you at financial independence before you hit age discrimination range, and that's a relief, because then we have less uncertainty around the income in these later years. To put the 50% savings rate in context, it's going to be about 35% of your gross pay, which is about double, roughly, what financial experts recommend that you save for retirement. So I'm basically asking you to double up on retirement savings. The 20s were fun. We spent a bunch of money. We didn't save a bunch of money. And now it's time to double down, literally, on your retirement savings. And then also the 50% gets you out of the money game before we hit the random health problem age range. And so, that's why we're going to talk about the merits of a 50% savings rate if you are in this scenario where you are 33 and you don't have any retirement savings, but you do make a pretty good amount of money. And, I think what you'll see is a message that I want to tell people repeatedly, which is that we have to save more than we think we do, earlier than we think we do. However, if we do it, the outcomes are better than we think that they'll be. So that's some general advice. Whatever you think you need to be saving, you probably need to double it. And whatever you're imagining your old age is going to be like, you probably need to double it, as long as you do the savings to support it. All right, let's look at the budget now that you would need to live on if you wanted to save 50% of your take-home pay on an $80,000 salary. Well, the budget is very similar to the $60,000 budget that I talked about in some of my first videos, but we have to shave off a little bit because that budget assumed $2,400 of spending roughly, and we only have about $2,312. So we're going to have to shave off some money. Now, luckily, I was pretty conservative with everything, so the numbers are going to work out well later, but let's just review. Housing, $800. So you're going to want to find a shared housing situation. You're 33, and I know it's great to have your own place, but we got to take care of business. The old version of you wants their independence, and for them to get their independence, current you is going to have to save some more money. And so $800 is the housing budget. It is definitely the most difficult, most painful part of this whole thing, but it's also in California what is going to make all of this work, because housing is so incredibly expensive that if we pay, like a one-bedroom housing rate, then we're not going to be able to make up that money in other places in the budget. There's just nowhere to do it. So yeah, housing is $800. That's going to be a big mindset change. Groceries are $400. I shaved $100 off of that. It means that until we can get our income up, the food's going to stay pretty simple from the grocery store. And this isn't a beans and rice budget. A single person on $400 can definitely pay for some nice food from the grocery store. It is going to involve some meal planning if you want, the flavor. Another reason why we cut down on this housing budget is because it allows us to have a fun and travel budget. But the fun and travel budget is only $400. What this means is that we're going to have some months where we don't spend $400 on fun because we are saving up money for travel. And what that means is that we're going to need to do annual travel planning and not just monthly spur-of-the-moment travel planning to make this fun and travel budget work. So, again, we've got more planning to do now. We had grocery and meal planning to stay at a delicious place in this $400 budget. And on the fun travel side, we also need to think further ahead of time in terms of when are we going to buy those plane tickets so that we save money on them so we can stay within this $400 budget and do some things that we want to do that are fun with friends. I cut, I think, $50 off the car budget, so that's at $250. The car budget is definitely, I think, excessive for people who already have their car paid for. You should be able to get your car insurance under $50, and gas should also generally be below $100 a month. Obviously, there's a commute cost here, so to the extent that you can try and live close to where you work, you can try to get that commute cost down, and there are some savings there. But, the car budget's going to, for some people, $250 is going to be the appropriate car budget. So, there we go. I put a $200 health insurance budget. If you have a high deductible healthcare plan, HDHP, then you can likely contribute to an HSA, a health savings account. That's going to be a tax deduction, I believe, for many people, and it's also going to grow tax-free if you invest it. If you don't have healthcare expenses and you build up kind of a savings hoard on the side, and we're going to be saving a lot of money here, so you can do that, then this health insurance can be invested. And if you remain healthy for the next 10 years, that investment is going to grow. And so this can be another source of retirement savings and tax-free growth if our health remains good. If our health doesn't remain good, then we have a bunch of savings to pay for the health insurance that we need. But the point is, I explicitly put money aside for health insurance and healthcare because it is a real thing. It's an important thing. Electricity is $75. That's probably a little bit higher than it needs to be sometimes. And the reason why is because you'll likely be spending a little bit more time at home on this budget than you would if you were spending a lot more on going out. Because we need to prioritize the comfort of our future self, and that's kind of what's required. That doesn't mean you can't socialize. It just means that if you have friends over, you've got frugal parties relatively. You do simple things. Bring your own beer. And cell phone, $50. That's going to definitely cover a basic cell phone plan with enough gigabytes of data that unless you're watching a ton of movies, you're going to be perfectly fine there. I've got you with the $50 internet. That's totally enough for broadband, enough for streaming Netflix. And I even included $15 for Netflix. All that adds up to $22.40, and what we needed to hit was $23.12, so I've got about $50 of grace room in there. And so we got some breathing room in there. I guess you could subscribe to Audible too. I'm a big fan of Audible. But this is roughly going to be the shape of your budget. Maybe you have some renter's insurance that needs to go in there somewhere. But this is an outline of what life is going to be like as long as you are making $80,000 a year. But, look on the bright side. This is way more money than most of us had to spend in college. So life is still good. And you're only 33. You can definitely earn more money in your career. You can get more training. There are tons of YouTube videos that will teach you about all kinds of different things. You can search for different types of jobs that might pay more. You can talk to people, reach out to people. There are definitely ways to increase your income. And so far in my plan, I've assumed that your income doesn't increase. And so, if you want to upgrade any of these things, housing, groceries, fun, whatever it is that you want to upgrade, you can totally do it, but it's on you to find the money, which means you need to go out and make more money, which means you need to put some thinking into increasing your income on top of the thinking you do for meal plan, the thinking you do for annual travel. Honestly, the meal plan stuff, this is kind of like you think about it, once and then you update it monthly a little bit, and then it just gets locked into place and you're used to it and it's efficient and it works. Annual travel planning, once you look at about 2 years of travel, you basically know the kind of stuff that you're going to want to try to do and how much it's going to cost and when you need to buy those tickets. So these are not long-term planning costs. Career advancement, that's a long-term planning cost. You're going to have to continually spend brain power on that throughout your career, but the more you do it, the more money you make, so it pays you back. Staying away from restaurants is a big deal in this budget. You're just not going to be able to spend $50 on a dinner on any kind of regular basis and stay within these numbers. It won't work out. And so that is what the budget looks like. And I've been living on a budget similar to this entire year. And I'm happy. It's good. So I know it's doable, even though it can seem awful. The thing that we have to do next always seems more awful than it really is. I'm looking at, this weekend I opened up some of those boxes and I've got to sell some of those books. And I was like, oh, this is bad. But I know, my logical brain knows that once I start selling that stuff, it's not actually going to be that bad. But that's my Mount Fuji, Kilimanjaro, I don't know what you want to call it. That's my hill to climb, is like selling all this stuff in boxes. To save 50% of your income, your first hill to climb is going to be, getting the housing budget to $800 in California, which is certainly a challenge, and then doing the meal planning, and doing the other planning to actually make your life fit this budget. After you get it all done, it's not going to be nearly as bad as it seems in the beginning, I promise. But it's definitely going to seem bad in the beginning. That's a fact. Now I want to talk a little bit about how this is going to work out at the end of the day. What is financial independence going to look like for you? And what kinds of tax-sheltered accounts are going to help us along the way? How are we going to really leverage those to make even more money? All right, well, at $80,000 a year, you are outside the income range to write off a traditional IRA. So your IRA contribution might as well be Roth because you don't get any write-off from traditional anyway, so you can't avoid those taxes anyway. So, yeah, you're going to be paying taxes on that money. Now, on the plus side, it's going to grow tax-free, and you don't have to pay tax on that money anymore, but it's just a fact. And then for that $18,500, though, so you got $5,500 into an IRA, an individual retirement arrangement. And then we can also max out our 401k or 403b or whatever you have. And I would recommend doing a traditional there, because by doing a traditional, we can avoid California's excessive tax rates. So normally we'd have to pay 22 in federal tax plus 9.3 for California tax for a total of about 31. So about a third of that money would be going away. Instead, we're not going to have to pay that tax, which means we're going to get that money in our paycheck. And then we have the opportunity to invest that money instead. And yeah, so we're just going to invest that tax difference. And I don't include that in the calculation, in the savings rate calculation, because of the way the math works, but it is something that needs to be done and is going to help us along the way. And then to reach your full 50% of take-home pay savings, you're also going to need to invest about $3,755 into some kind of taxable account beyond the IRA and beyond the 401k. If you have a health savings account, then it would be a great idea to max that out, and you can put about $3,400 or $3,450 or something like that from this $3,700 into the health savings account, and then it's going to be the tax sheltered for growth, so you can open one with Vanguard, stick that all in the stock market. If you don't have any health problems, then it's just going to act as part of your retirement portfolio, and at age 65, I think, you can withdraw it all penalty-free if you want. So, yep, that's a good deal. And remember, I had $200 in that budget that was earmarked for health insurance. So if you are at a company that is covering your health insurance, but you're on an HSA plan, you can also stick that money potentially into an HSA. Obviously, if you've already maxed out with the $3,400, you can't anymore, but this healthcare money is there. So you might as well set it aside. If you don't use it, then it's just going to build up for your retirement. I don't actually include that in this retirement calculation, but I'm just pointing out that this is savings that I built into the budget, even beyond this other retirement stuff. So any numbers I give here are probably a little pessimistic in terms of what you'll actually get. All right, so in the 50% savings plan, you're going to be contributing for 16 years, and you're going to have about $1 million. And $1 million gets you financial independence. So $1 million is actually a little bit, this is inflation adjusted, so this would be like $1 million in 2018 dollars. The actual dollar figure should be higher, but because of inflation and spending power going down, it's going to be worth about $1 million in today's dollar value. What I haven't included in any of this planning is that you'll receive Social Security someday in some form, in some amount, and that you will likely earn more money than you're earning right now, And so this budget is likely going to get easier to live on. And you'll have the choice when you make that extra money whether you want to achieve financial independence earlier or whether you want to increase lifestyle. If you leave California once you achieve financial independence, you're going to be avoiding a ton of California state taxes. And another important reason why I chose a 50% savings rate and why I encourage people to make this their goal and get the 50% savings rate central in their mind is because if you choose the 30% savings rate, right? Number one, you may not make it because of health issues that come up later in your life. But you also might not make it at the 30% savings rate simply because you continue doing some of the behaviors you did before that caused you to not save. And if you fail to hit the 30% savings rate, you're not going to hit financial independence because you're going to get old, you're going to be in your 60s, you're not going to have saved enough money, and you're going to be somewhere in this wasteland. And since I want you to definitely be okay in your old age, I would rather try for a plan where we want to get to financial independence here and we fail and maybe we work for 5 more years because we failed, but we're still achieving financial independence in our mid-50s. And that's not too bad, especially compared with the results that most Americans get. This is personal philosophy of mine. I have always found way more success when I shoot for something that feels difficult and seems kind of over the moon. Because even if I don't hit it, I still do really well. I still end up doing better than most people. And if I do achieve it, if I do hit it, and many times I have found that I have done better than I thought I would when I'm going towards a goal, because there are a lot of efficiencies and ways of doing things that you can't see on this first day of planning that are going to come up more the more people that you talk to, the more career advancement you get, the more planning that you personally do, the happier you get with this new budget. And so I found that many times I actually am able to achieve something even better than what I thought. I thought that maybe the 50% plan would get me here, and then I had some career crazy stuff around here, and now I'm like, something like this. So that's why the 50% that's another reason why I want to pick 50%, is because I want to shoot for something that's really ambitious so that there is a big safety net in case I mess up, or it just works out really well because now I'm hitting my career peak and I've got a lot of financial flexibility, or I do even better and I don't need to work after the age of like 42. That'd be amazing. And it's totally possible. You're going to have to focus a lot on the career advancement kind of now, basically, to get the momentum so that you're making the salary by these years so that you would have the savings rate and that you would hit financial independence by here. So planning, more income planning related stuff. All right. An advantage of this plan is if you look at the types of money that we put in, about 45% of the savings here is money that you've already paid taxes on, which means that you don't have to pay the normal income tax rates when you withdraw that money. You're going to be paying the long-term capital gains rate. The long-term capital gains rate for people who are realizing less than, I believe it's $38,000 of income, is 0%. So on 45% of the money that you're withdrawing from your retirement, or that you would live on if you decided to live on that money once you hit financial independence, you would not pay taxes on, and the remaining 55%, you of course would be paying some tax on, but it would be less than what you would pay if you were paying out of that $80,000 income. Now, obviously, you don't have to stop working if you don't want to. If you enjoy your job, or if you find some other line of work that you're really excited about and that you want to go into work for, and you enjoy your coworkers and you just enjoy what you're doing, it keeps you active, then fabulous, keep working and keep building your nest egg. And then you can work 5 more years, you can work 10 more years. If you want to work 15 more years, you can, but it's optional. And the more that you work and the more that you save, that this is just going to increase your standard of living from then on. You can just, set 50% aside for lifestyle stuff, and 50% aside for more retirement savings, but your consumption from here on just increases because you've already checked the box in terms of having the basics at this point, and all the working that you do beyond that is adding on top of the basics, spending that you can do for lifestyle, travel, things like that. Or maybe you decide that you want to cut down to like part-time work, and then that frees up more time to do exactly travel or to spend more time with people you care about or whatever you want. That's the fun part of this, is that you get to think about everything that you're going to do during these green years that other people aren't going to be able to do because they're stuck at work. All right. And that's it. That's it for my discussion of a 33-year-old person making $80,000 a year, hasn't saved anything for retirement. What would be my recommendation? What angle would I take on this? Obviously, there are a ton of different expense situations. There's a ton of different income situations, but there are also people who might be listening to this from states with much more favorable tax laws, certainly state income tax, and much more favorable housing rates. So that $800 in Georgia may be able to get you a home mortgage. Yep. All right. I hope that was helpful. I hope that allows you to see why the sacrifice necessary to hit that 50% savings rate is worth it, and why I think that is a great goal in this situation, to have something that you can be excited about and to have a lot of time to still do what you want to do with your life. That's it. Have a fabulous evening.